In his home city of Melbourne, youth worker Les Twentyman is something of an icon. Famous for having dedicated nearly 30 years of his life to helping thousands of disadvantaged young people. I caught up with Les at a time when he says life on the streets is getting tougher, the gap between rich and poor is getting wider, and youth work has become an uphill battle with no clear end in sight.
And the Open Family and the Brotherhood of St Lawrence are getting together to raise money principally so they can have a outreach worker in Geelong to provide assistance to disadvantaged youth. Les Twentyman will be in to tell us more. The most famous street worker in the business, Les Twentyman. He'll be in about 9:30 to tell us more.
Bay FM's totally 80s, nothing but the 80s.
It was good, wasn't it?
Yep.
So did you get all that?
Yeah.
You have been, to the best of my knowledge, shot, stabbed at, mugged by people you're trying to help a lot of the time. Why do you do it?
Well, they're in a culture where they sometimes don't know any different. Sadly, violence on the street is something that's escalated because of... people say, it must be different now that heroin is not as accessible as it was in 1999 and 2000, but we find it at the street level far more dangerous, because they're actually using drugs such as speed and which is amphetamines, and also ice, which in some cases they go up to 6-7 days without sleep. So they're sleep deprived. They're very sort of paranoid, and they're armed. And so the street life in the past couple of years has become very, very serious. Well, I was a school teacher in Collingwood at a Catholic primary school, and it was children presenting all the time with all sorts of stories that were quite tragic that were happening to them, and so I got a little bit frustrated hearing that sort of stuff and got sick of teaching after 10 years and decided I'd like to work in an industry where I could help them outside of the structures of the school ground. So I saw a job in the Age advertised for someone to work with difficult young people. And when I rang up and inquired, it was to work with teenage girls who had been locked up in a place called Winleighton, Wards Estate, to work with them in a hostel setting. And I thought, well, gee whiz, I'm probably going to be eliminated because of my gender. And it was quite the contrary. They were after a male because of the lack of positive male role models in these young girls' lives. And so applied and got an interview, and out of a field of 60, I got the job.
Since then, Les has dedicated his life to youth work, especially in the western suburbs where 1 in 4 young people under 19 is unemployed.
When I was a kid, that's where I had my first crew cut, in that shop there. The old, which is now the old number 1 and number 2 nowadays, called a crew cut. The guy in there, his name was Oscar Ruff. He used to do the roughest haircuts. And that was my dad's shop, right?
No, that's fish and chips.
Yeah, fish and chips, but that was on breed race. Yeah, my job in the daytime was, on the weekends, was to ride around Braybrook and get all the orders from all the people in the houses. Come back here, and people would make them up out the back when the shop shut at midday. Put them on the truck that used to be there, and we'd go and deliver them all around Braybrook. It was a very strong community in those days. Later, when I came back, some 30 years later, to become a youth worker, I was quite shocked, about how it had changed. No one was unemployed in those days. Everyone had a job. In my day, the biggest crime, I think, was committed by myself and a mate. And it was one Sunday when we kicked a footy, hit the power lines, and blacked out the whole neighbourhood, and everyone missed out on their Sunday roast. And everyone for weeks said, they're the two, and we'd cringe around. But, I mean, today it's obviously, I've dealt with young people here and some are doing very lengthy jail stretches for murder and things like that. But it's all about lack of opportunity and, you know. Heath. He's a kid I've known for about 15 years or so. Known Heath since he was 5 years of age, haven't I? Yep. First time I ran across Heath, he was running around without any clothes or very little clothes on, about 5 years of age in June, running through some puddles. You're still working?
Yeah.
Good.
Casual.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Work. Where are you working?
I'm Brunswick.
Oh yeah. Did you ride all the way there?
Nah, catch a train and ride.
Okay. What are you doing there?
I'm just a cleaner.
Well, it's good, mate. How long have you been on the job?
Oh, for about a month now.
A month.
Yeah.
What time do you have to get up?
6.
Oh, gee whiz. You're bloody cold. It's going to be 4 degrees tonight.
Nah.
Yeah. Okay with you?
Yeah.
That's good. Well, it's hard for kids to get jobs in it around
Yeah,
here.
especially around this area. You walk in, they look at you and think, who the stuff are you?
Yeah.
They take your looks by, they take you on the cover, not what's inside.
Yeah.
But you can do a hard job in that and work hard, but at the end of the day, they got to see it, not you.
You're never really fully detached. They're there, and it's just their critical need of you may not be as great at this particular point in time, but it may be in a week's time, even though they haven't seen you for maybe months or even a couple of years. I think the detachment is a difficult one because, as I said, you're never really fully detached, but you've got to also be so. I remember being told by one of my bosses, Liz, she said, always remember that it's their problem, not yours. Once you make it your problem, then it's both people's problems, then no one wins out of it.
Over the years, Les's work, especially that as an advocate for disadvantaged young people, has brought him into the media spotlight. He's received many awards and accolades, including the Order of Australia Medal.
But I found that the media don't really want to talk to people who sit behind desks and that sort of stuff because it just doesn't sort of gel that someone on 150,000 dressed in pinstripes knows about, you know, people out on the street with no food and no school books and things like that. So they're more likely they wanted it from someone who was there with it, and that's, I guess, where I evolved. You get to meet people, as I said, you don't get to meet normally, and some of them have become lifelong friends, like the Angry Andersons and the Elliot Goblets and Ian Hewisons, you know, and they're there to support you. It's quite often I'm asked, you know, whether, you know, what keeps me going. They expect, oh, God and family. Well, I don't have either of those. I mean, I don't have immediate family, but I've obviously got a mother and brothers and sisters, but I think having good mates and appreciation sport, and also knowing in some way that, you know, I've had a privileged life, you know, because I've been able to function. I'm really tired of it in some ways. I really need a bit of a holiday to need to get a bit fitter and all that sort of stuff. So, but because there's so much variety in it now, you know, I mean, a lot of it's education now, with going into schools, the media, speaking of fundraising events. I mean, sometimes I really enjoy that, and other times I really have these panic attacks, and all of a sudden, oh, you know, because you might have had a drama, kid may have died on you or whatever, and you. I don't really sort of think any further than the next day or the next week, you know. Just try to keep it that way because, well, I mean, I don't know what I could do. I mean. Some people said I could probably make a lot of money on the speaking circuit, but then some people would say, oh, well, who wants to go and listen to someone talking about depressing subjects? running into your mum at the footy on Saturday? Yeah, that's right. Going for the Geelong and it did no good.
This is our CEO, Lynn Connell.
Oh, but
I didn't met you when you came and spoke at
Good to see you. How are you? Good. Billy, I want to get here before you ate all the sausage rolls.
That's the only reason I'm here, mate. I heard there's free sausage sizzle.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Hello at the back there. We want to get you all up here because we're going to start the opening. I do want to call him up here because he's not accustomed to the media, this man. He's been stalking Ray Martin for years, but he does fantastic work. And late at night, sometimes we've had conversations about what the world would be like if there weren't people like Father Bob Maguire, the Brotherhood of St Lawrence, and indeed this man. And the answer he gives me is not pretty. Would you please welcome Les Twentyman, ladies and gentlemen.
One of the big issues today is particularly about young kids not being able to access school because they haven't got any school books and things like that, clothes, food. And I remember recently one of the principals from one of the schools around Geelong saying that she had grade 5s come to school, smoking dope and things like that in the playground. So these are the issues that are facing us in the 21st century. Brotherhood St Lawrence and us working together. The winners in this are going to be you, the community, and thanks for coming along today.
Loves the media, pretends he doesn't, but loves getting in front of the camera and being the media man, and probably hasn't got the right body for it or the head. Radio probably suits him better, but no, he's a good man.
Yeah, how are you? Yeah, Les Twentyman, pleased to meet you. How are you?
Span.
Hey, Sam, how are you, mate?
He's a fighter, watch out. He took about 8 hours.
I've actually been listening to you for years, and I truly believe Australia needs a few heroes, and you are the sort of people we need to look at, not these sporting heroes and things that I say that very quietly at the moment.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you for the work you do. God
Good on you.
bless you.
Good on you. What's your name?
My name's Elaine. I've had a son with a problem, but I'm lucky I was able to keep him.
Oh, good.
But I appreciate very much the work that you do to try and help these kids.
Good on you. We'll make sure everyone comes and shop here. Good on you. Thanks very much. It sort of makes you feel as though you've got to be like some pristine goody two-shoes, and I'm not. I mean, I still like to be a bit of a larrikin and I'd like to have a few drinks and do all the boy things, you know what I mean? But because of who you are, you know that one foot wrong and it's in the media. I mean, it's hard to, a lot of cases to deal with kids who are dying on you, thieving from you, lying to you, yeah, backstabbing you. Yeah, that's without becoming, affected by it. Well, he said he hasn't eaten for 4 days, but you reckon he might be telling me some pork pies?
No.
Eh? Peter wouldn't tell any porkies, would you?
No, because how much? Yeah. You know how much milk I'll talk about first?
$6.
Then I wouldn't be able to get the drink.
Do you want garlic sauce on that?
Yes.
I'm not going to kiss him if he's going to be having garlic. Unbelievable. Jeez. So I've known you, from 8 years now?
About that.
You're first in care at, 12 years of age?
No, I was first in care at 10. I was in the department all my life. When I first got taken to a hospital when I was 10 years old.
Yeah. And you said one of the reasons you got into the drug scene was because you used to get thrown out of the hostel and you had nothing to do. I reckon there's probably been 100 deaths in Footscray in the past 4 years, of young, should be vital, young people who are participating in society and participating in life, but they're not. They are just treading water, waiting to drown, and they just live with this anger and fear, and that's why there's stabbings there every day. The street is so much different in character from the heroin days. You've now got people who are paranoid because they're on ice and speed and they're dealing, they're desperate. you know, they're only doing what comes natural to them, and that's their self-preservation, and you know, and it's just survival when they should be at the peak of their life, you know. And what are they peaking to? Waking up every day, hanging badly to do drugs. Peter is sort of, you know, he's had to fight the battle every day, battling to feed himself and to find accommodation, and battling, you know, to make it to his 21st birthday. You know, he's got problems with all sorts of drug issues and that, but he keeps fighting it. You know, he keeps on coming up, keeps on smiling, keeps on trying to be positive about things. He's a very pleasant young man, you know, but he's been walking the streets since he was 12. Well, they all touch you, but obviously those that have basically have had long experiences with, you know, Liz Shaw obviously was the most traumatic, because she was almost like a daughter. I mean, I got the phone call that day from the St Kilda police. I knew it was going to be something about her, because I'd only seen her about 2 weeks previously down in St Kilda, where she worked prostituting, and you know, she was in terrible shape. She died of a drug overdose. She was found in a flat in St Kilda not long after her 18th birthday, yeah. But she'd been a drug user since she was 13. She'd been a street prostitute since she was 13, and she was a ward of the state. But you think that it's so sad. I remember when on Christmas, she had nowhere to go, and I was rostered on, and she was the only one at the hostel that we couldn't place. So I took her home to my parents' place, and there she's a tough, you know, she would have been 15, I think, at the time. But when she got to my place, you know, my brothers and sisters are there with their kids and that, you know, and we all went out the back and played in the backyard cricket and that, and she was just like any other normal young girl. But, you know, but then put her back in the street environment and she'd kick your head in, you know. And I just thought it was so sad that these children have never been really able to be children. They've always had to be survivors.